editor of a local food magazine, and I sort of got wind that there was this thing happening with military veterans returning from the war. I was, as Bob said, a correspondent for United Press International and then the Associated Press when I was PI. I spent a fair amount of time in Iraq, a little bit in Afghanistan, and covering those wars. And I came away with a really profound appreciation for what folks in the military can do, wholly beyond whatever their MOS was or whatever they were trained to do. I mean, I saw it with my own eyes, 21-year-old tank drivers working out peace agreements in tiny little villages between Turkmen, and that's because there are a lot of overlapping qualities that farmers and veterans both share. Mission orientation. You don't clock out of farming at the end of an 8-hour day, and neither do you do when you're actually doing your work in the military. Physical toughness, emotional resilience, the joy that comes from actually creating things, about seeing the difference that you're making in an environment versus just sitting behind a desk and pushing around electrons. The ability to think long term and to hold yourself together in moments of crisis, and to not expect everything to sort of just turn out well, but to know that you're going to be planning and adapting those plans. So all of these things are stuff that farmers need to do, and they're stuff that military veterans, in our experience, are adept at. There's another benefit to farming for anyone, and that is that being outside, doing physical work, being exposed to sunlight, being exposed to particular microbes in the soil, is therapeutic and beneficial. And for a lot of veterans, that's really appealing to them. And then a lot of folks come to us and say, I spent a career blowing shit up and I would like to actually create something. And so that's another appealing piece of farming. And then I think the other appealing piece for vets is, having so long been a part of an organization where you're, at the bottom of a chain, or at the bottom of some chain, unless you were, a 4-star. It's nice to finally have a piece of land to call your own and call your own shots. We've also found from studies from the Small Business Administration that veterans are sort of 40% more likely than any other demographic to start their own business, and farms are nothing else but a small business. It also allows you to stay at home and hang out with your family, and a lot of folks who spend a fair amount of time being deployed really enjoy that. So from the day I got there until 2015, when we won our first USDA contract to train new farmers, we began planning for this program. And now 6 years later, and almost $1 million, maybe even more, in federal grants, Arcadia is a recognized expert in farm training, particularly for military veterans. We take family members and spouses, partners as well, but it is specifically for folks who are either active duty or in the military. And with Justin's help, we created a program that sort of responded to the various needs that folks like you have. So we have 3 training tracks, and you will find the application for the Veteran Farmer Reserve. The fellowship application is now closed, but the Veteran Farmer Reserve, you'll find that in the chat, and I would encourage all of you to look at that and apply. You will be accepted, and I'll explain why in a moment. But we have 3 training tracks, and they're very cool. The first one is the Veteran Farm Fellowship. I'll do that really quickly. It is a paid on-farm job. It is an on-the-job training program recognized by the VA, so you can draw base housing allowance. I'm being quick because the application for that is currently closed. We are in the process of selecting our 2 fellows for next year. They work on our farm full-time May until November. They're paid very poorly, but the base housing allowance really boosts that up. It's tax-free money at about, I think it's like $2,400 a month for the first 6 months, and then it goes down to about $1,800 for the remainder of the program. That is if you have GI Bill benefits left. They work alongside our professional farmers. They're a member of our farm crew. They're a member of Arcadia Farm staff, and it's a deep dive into farm management and vegetable growing. We have 3, sort of 2.5 incredible fellows working with us right now, and it's a total total pleasure. One of the greatest things we've ever done. The next piece is the Veteran Farmer Reserve, and this is the one that I want you all to look at. This is 1 weekend a month of training every month for a year. It'll start in January. It's almost always the last weekend of the month unless it falls on a federal holiday. And the Veteran Farmer Reserve program is really good for a variety of people. If you think you're interested in farming but not sure, never done anything, this is the program for you, because you're going to get a chance to look at it from an overview. You're going to get hands-on cultivation experience. You're going to visit lots of farms, and you're going to be able to test whether or not you actually want to be a farmer. Already own land, already maybe even growing, this is the program for you, because we give you very specific skills that allow you to have a farm and to operate that farm in a successful manner that will lead you to a profit. Can't guarantee it, but you're going to be much better able to do that if you go through our program than if you don't, and I can promise you that. Here's why. Each of these weekends, there's 12 weekends, they're Saturday and Sunday, include 4 components, and sometimes one component is not there just because of weather and scheduling, but it's always a mix of these 4. Hands-on cultivation on our farm or on another farm. Farm academics, so everything a farmer needs to know in their head or when they're sitting at a desk. It could be botany, it could be crop planning, crop rotation, understanding pests, anything that a farmer needs to have in their head when they're not actually out working. Then we do field trips to local farms, usually within an hour or an hour and a half of our farm in Alexandria outside the gates of Fort Belvoir. And this is a chance to see farms in action and get to talk with farmers who give you real talk, who tell you exactly what they invested, exactly how much time a week they spend, and what they did wrong and what they wish they had done differently. And what we find that field trips are the favorite component of our trainees, because people love action and real training that's actually useful, that's not theoretical. And we also find that people significantly change what kind of farm they want to have based on those meetings. Sometimes people will come in thinking they want to grow vegetables and then end up, running a chicken farm. And some people come in thinking that they want to have pigs, but end up, moving towards bison. So just seeing it and understanding what the demands are really makes a difference in the kind of farm that you're going to have. And then the final piece, and probably the most important, is focused business training that is farm specific from an incredibly talented business trainer. She's a CPA and a tax attorney, no longer practicing, who specializes in sustainable agriculture. And so you learn everything from how to set up your chart of accounts to the insurance that you need to get, liability in business and otherwise, how to look at property for purchase, and the people who are training you are my director of operations, who is the one I mentioned first, who worked with a veteran. He's done every kind of job on a farm and is super organized. Stephen, who was my first farmer when I fell in, who had been the beginning farmer trainer. Stephen is amazing, and he is actually a distiller. Now he owns distillery in Washington, D.C., and he continues to work with farmers in the region, grain farmers, to help them change their growing practices into sustainable or organic so that he can buy grain from them. So he's still actively engaged in that kind of farming, and then he runs the academic portion of our farm and serves as a consultant for people who go through the program. So we've had now 101 folks that have participated. We have more than 40 farms that have already resulted from it, and 2/3 of everyone who's gone through the program is still engaged in agriculture in some way. This is in part because we're great at what we do, but really it's about the people who come to us. They really want to be farmers and just need some kind of push and pathway into it. So farming, very much like the military, is a calling. If you feel called to it, you're not going to be happy doing anything else. And we want to prepare you to do that work and be successful at it. There's another piece to this, which is that some folks have come through and they think they want to farm, but their life just doesn't allow it at that moment. Maybe they just had a baby and need to have, some guaranteed health insurance, or they don't have enough money to start farming. In those cases, we have been able to help some of them find jobs that are sort of farm adjacent. One guy came through in 2016 in our first reserve program, really wanted to do urban farming. His wife got pregnant, they had the baby, and now he actually runs purchasing for 2 food hubs up in New England after we connected him to a job down here where he learned that business. So there's all kinds of opportunities that are available in farming and farm adjacent. And if you know how to talk farm, it opens up all kinds of worlds to you. Now, just a note about veteran compost. I'm very wily and I'm very excited about this deal. Justin and I, as I said, we've been friends for many years. I tried desperately to find him a girlfriend, but he ended up getting married before any of my women worked out. And he came to us, I guess, a year ago and said that the farm that they had been on, that I had connected them to in previous years, was changing their farm model. They didn't want compost on the property anymore. And did we know anybody else? And after talking about it with my farm staff, we decided, yes, it's us. We gave them a very much too small space, but it's all we could do. We don't own our property, so we had to kind of sneak them in. And they're an educational compost facility. So that means that 90% of the compost that comes out is going to be applied to our farm fields. So we have some challenging soil conditions, and we're already starting to see a massive change. So as compost comes out, we're applying it to our fields, and it's saving us about, Justin, if I were buying this, I think it'd be like $35,000 to $40,000 of compost per year. And the change in our soil, the change in our food growing, the change in our pest pressure and our weed pressure, the change in our nutrient density, and the change in carbon sequestration, and the ability to resist drought and also manage floods is going to go way up. So a year from now, I think we're going to see a profound change in our farm. And it's very exciting. There's one final piece to our training program. If you go through one of the 2 other training programs, the fellowship, which is really competitive, or the reserve, which we let everybody who signs up come into, because we just let God sort you out. It's a big commitment. And if you're not willing to do it, if you're not willing to show up, then you're not in the program. But if you are willing to show up, then we want you there every weekend, and we will support you as you go forth. The final piece of our program, we started in 2018, and it's really taking off now. It's our veteran farm incubator. We have more land than we can actually farm the way that we farm. We are highly focused on hand farming. So we're doing, hand weeding and hand cultivation. We have a tractor, and you get tractor trained. But most of our work is done on foot and by hand. So that means we can do about 1 acre per farmer. And with our fellows, we have about 4 farmers. So we have about 4.5 or 5 acres under cultivation. That means there's like 10 acres left. So we have dedicated that to an incubator. If you go through the programs, you can apply for space up to, I think, 1/8 of an acre, which is big, in your first year, and then you can expand it to 1/4 of an acre and beyond. You can be on our property for 3 years. It's very low cost. It's $250 a year, and what you get is the soil. You get the compost that's coming off of Justin's operation. You get a greenhouse. You get greenhouse space. You get a walk-in cooler and an office space. You have a vegetable washing station. You have access to our markets. We buy a lot of stuff from our incubators. You get technical support from our farmers, and you get sort of marketing and general cheerleading from me. One of our great fellows from last year was on the incubator this year. She really wanted to do a flower farm, and so she set one up, and unbeknownst to her, I started creating Eventbrite tickets for her. And in her first year, she was completely sold out. She eventually agreed to do this and actually made a big profit. She also grew vegetables, and a lot of our farmers did that, even though it wasn't necessarily their intention in 2020 in response to the pandemic. And she contributed hundreds of pounds of veggies to local food pantries. So that